Well, to talk more about this, I'm going to speak to economist Maria Demertzis. She's the Deputy Director at Bruegel, a Brussels-based think tank that specialises in economics. Welcome to Real Economy.
Thank you for having me.
Has the war in Ukraine fundamentally changed the economic outlook for Europe, or has it more exaggerated economic issues that were already there?
I think probably the latter. It has exaggerated, certainly when it comes to inflation. The reason why we're seeing all this inflation is indeed energy, and energy coming from Russia. It's affected Europe a lot more than it's affected the US because we depend on Russia a lot more than others do. It depends, of course, on the outcome of the war and how quickly we're going to find alternatives in Europe. Obviously, we can't do it overnight. On the outlook for growth, I think, we are coming out of a pandemic. Well, dare I say we are still in a pandemic, but at least the economy is coming out of the pandemic. We had huge increases in growth as a result of that. That has now been tamed a little bit, but we don't see a fundamental change there.
So for people watching, they're seeing their energy bills going up, the cost of living, the cost of food is rising. Should we just be prepared for more of this?
I think, yes, I think we're certainly going to have another year of this in terms of the inflation being abnormal. We have seen here in Belgium, where I live, an increase of flour, a doubling of flour, which of course has got implications with the price of bread, quite important. We'll feel it in our pockets when we refuel our cars, when we buy our weekly food. And I dare say that things probably need to get a little bit worse before they get better. So in that respect, I think we really need to brace ourselves for a little bit more of this.
And is this higher inflation a genuine concern, or is it just that we're nervous after such a long period of low inflation?
Well, I think it depends what you compare it to. If you compare it to the past 10 years, yes, that's we got used to very low rates of inflation. But it's not a problem if you compare it to the 1970s, when we were talking about real stagflation and inflation rates of 15% and negative growth. We don't have these numbers now. I don't expect to see those numbers even in the worst case scenario. But of course, we should stay short of forecasting these types of things. They're very difficult to forecast.
Do we need to see interest rates going up?
I think it's going to be very difficult for the ECB not to increase interest rates, or indeed other central banks that have to manage their own interest rates, when we are seeing inflation of the orders of magnitude that we're seeing.
How concerned are you about Europe's economy right now?
I think the European economy has weathered the pandemic crisis quite well. Now, of course, the new crisis is of a very different nature, and it is one that will affect also the way we can cooperate globally, which of course have economic repercussions. I think the European economy is in a good position to wear this off. Now, whether we'll manage it depends, of course, also how the war itself develops.